Okay, we're over at the scroll saw. This tool is really handy for making holes turn into other material, or hole opportunities turn into much larger patterns. So we have our hole here that we drilled, and what we're going to do is we're going to be able to thread through this blade through the hole into the scroll saw, which is going to allow us to do this interior cut pretty niftily and allow us to get that extra piece without having to do a cut into the material itself, and reducing the strength and ultimately the beauty of the project. One thing that you want to do with your blades is make sure that you're going up and down as opposed to, or the blades are pointing down, because the blade's action is going to be an up and down action. You want to make sure they're pushing down because they're going to be cutting, and you want to be using the table as a support feature. So we're going to take the blade, and you can see here that what we're going to do is we're going to slide this material underneath the guard. Okay, the guard is tightened and loosened right here on the side here. That's already, it's got to be tight so that it doesn't move, and we want to make sure that we hold that in place so that it's not going to bounce up and down. We're going to slide this blade through, again in the right position, making sure that we're going to be pushing down into it. You're going to make sure that when you're doing this, you're going to make sure that the tensioner isn't all, it's all the way loose. You're also going to make sure that there's a guide on the bottom that you're going to vise the blade into. Basically, this kind of functions like a sewing machine. It moves up and down really rapidly. So you're going to make sure that we have the blade tightened on the base first. You're going to make sure that the blade is tightened on the base first, and then you're going to be able to make sure that the blade's tightened on the base, and then you're going to go tighten it on the top, nice and tight. So we've got the blades in there, and you can hear that sound, hopefully. All right, the blade's in there, it's not moving around, it's not rocking and rolling. We tighten these up nice and tight. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take the tensioner, and we're going to tension the blade. Okay, and you can hear that it's getting a little tighter. Okay, and now we got it to a point where it's kind of get that ping sound. Okay, so we're going to tighten up that guard so that guard doesn't roll around on us. And now what we have is we have the opportunity to cut this this interior pattern out. Okay, as with all saws, we don't want to have the blade in contact with the material. Okay, our speed is controlled back here on this section right behind the on-off switch. So I'm going to start with it kind of in the middle so you can kind of see what happens. So I'm going to turn this on, and we're moving up and down, and you can see that I can speed it up, I can slow it down so that it's moving, fairly slow, and then speed that up. And we just have to kind of play with it a little bit. So again, keeping my hand outside of that guard. All right, and I'm just cutting along, supporting and holding the material down, letting the blade do the work. Okay, and I can back this out of this hole, or out of that cut line, back to the hole. And what I can do here is kind of do relief cuts, just like what we learned with the bandsaw. And I have those materials, and I'm going to stop it, just like the bandsaw, to get that extra material out so that I have some space to operate. So I have a little bit more space to turn, make my turns, make my cuts. Excuse me. So we're going to turn this on. One other thing to help keep the sawdust down, we can turn this on. This is basically a hose of air that's just pushing the sawdust out of the way so that I can see better. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is kind of move. And this is a straight cut. You don't want to... This blade doesn't allow you to go side to side as well. We do have spiral blades, which are used for like jigsaw puzzles. Where this one is not for that, because we're just doing a simple follow, get to the waistline type of a thing. And you can see I'm making these relief cuts going along. And now that I've kind of gotten close enough, and if this is really vital that I stay out of the waistline, I'm going to stay a little bit away so that I can come back through with a sandpaper or maybe a Dremel, something along those lines in the future. Okay, and I'm backing this up, I'm backing out and following that really carefully. All right, if I have some material that I want to get out of that way, I turn this off, and I have this little piece of waste material that I want to make sure that I can pop through. Okay, and that actually is being very challenging, so I'm gonna raise the guard, get this out. You can see that I got that material out of the way. You heard it hit the floor. Get these zip ties out of the way. Okay, got that guard back into position, holding the material down. The material does want to come up. I'm warning you, the material does want to come up, so you got to be careful about that when you're making your cuts. So we're going to make sure we're not in contact with the material again. Turn this on. I'm going to speed up the saw just a little bit, see if I can get a better cut process. Again, this is all a practice. This is just me working through this. Okay. Okay, and so now I'm rotating, and I've got this this cut under control. So I'm not gonna finish this whole process right now. This would take a little while to get this all cut out. I'm just gonna show you how you would remove it. So we raise the gate, we raise this down, we take the tension off the blade, so it's kind of a reverse order type of a thing. We take the material, we take the blade out from the top, we take the blade out from the bottom. The blade comes out. You can see that we've removed some of our material here inside that interior cut. That's the back side. The blades go in the case down below on the bottom of the jigsaw, or excuse me, on the scroll saw. Lower the guard back into position. Go get a sweeper and sweep off the bed of the scroll saw, and we're good to go. So that's basically the scroll saw in a nutshell in terms of what it's capable of. It can do obviously some exterior cuts where you're able to do these this type of a radius too, so it could be an alternative bandsaw, but the blades are really fine and can't do a lot of work really fast. So you just gotta kinda, this is good for intricate work, not great for high-end repeatable industrial work. So that's the scroll saw. Hopefully, if you have any questions, please make sure you're asked. Great for those interior cuts and precision, and you have a lot of workspace with this table, so definitely something that you might want to check out when making some things.